Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Scotland and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some very impressive beers from these guys over the last little while and I'm hoping that this one carries on in the same vein. I think this one will certainly be one of the more quirky beers that I've had from this brewery, and it was actually the one that convinced me to do an order directly from the brewery. So this is the first of 4 beers from these guys that you're going to see over the next little while. So for this one then, we are going to head through to Edinburgh once again, although we should say Dundee for these guys as well, and we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Vault City Brewing. So this particular beer is called the Tayberry Sour. It comes in at 6.6% ABV, and as the name suggests, this one is a sour beer brewed with tayberries. What is a tayberry, you might ask? We'll find that out a little bit later on in the video. I've certainly never had it before, and that's one of the reasons why I said that this beer should be quite quirky, but it's supposed to be very, very nice, and as I've told you in previous reviews, these guys do some pretty damn awesome sour beers actually. So yeah, fingers crossed this beer is as good as the other ones that we've had from them before, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So yeah, let's see how we get on then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Vault City Brewing before, and you will see more added to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite regularly at the moment because I am enjoying a little bit of time at home in the motherland. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely, hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Vault City Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So Vault City Brewing, as I've told you already, were originally based in Edinburgh, the Scottish capital, and they were founded back in 2018 by Johnny Horn, Adele Wilkie and Stephen Smith-Hay. So Johnny worked at the Hanging Bat in the city, which is quite a well-known little brew pub. I do recommend you check it out if you get the chance, and hopefully I can film an out and about video there at some point soon. The last time I was there though, they didn't have any of their own beers, so I thought it was a bit pointless to do that, but yeah, you will see one sometime soon. But basically Johnny worked there, and then Stephen and Adele were regular customers, and over time they all became friends. So Johnny was studying at the time and he was also a keen home brewer, as was Stephen, but the two began brewing a little bit together, then planning their own brewery, and Adele contributed a number of the ideas for this, and then she eventually joined them fully. But Johnny was a great fan of the Belgian lambics and sours, and this rubbed off on Adele and Stephen, and they felt that at the time they were planning the brewery there was a big gap in the market in the Scottish beer scene for this, and so they decided that was the direction they're going to take, and it has gone pretty well for them, I have to say. But initially they didn't think so much about kind of making money, and so they set up a glorified home brewing kit as their brewery in Stephen and Adele's kitchen, and they began brewing weekly back in July of 2018. So these guys are only about 2.5 years old as it stands, but over the last year they've been visiting a few different beer festivals, or over the last 2 years I should say. They've been visiting lots of different beer festivals across Europe just to kind of spread their name about, and you know, trying out different kinds of beers and things like that as well. But as of January 2021, when I'm reviewing this beer for you, these guys have reviewed or have produced, sorry, about 70 different kinds of beer, and they're brewing their beers at 71 Brewing up in Dundee. But the name Vault City is actually taken from the Edinburgh or Southside Vaults as they're known in the Old Town, and these were built in the archways of the Southside Bridge in Edinburgh. They were home to like workshops, cobblers, taverns and things like this, and they wanted something that really kind of related them with Edinburgh. So that's what they did, and hence the name Vault City Brewing, and it's gone very well for them, like I said. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about this brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this beer itself then. Very, very curious to see what this one has in store for us. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork before we open this one up. There you can see the typical Vault City Brewing symbol there, and you will find that on the top of most of these beers that you'll find, which is quite a nice little touch. But it says on the side here, this one contains Tayberry, wheat and oats, so I think this one will be, it will be, you know, I've said this about some of the other beers, I would think it might be somewhat akin to, you know, the Berliner Weisses and the Goses and things like that, but they always do tend to be a little bit different. You know, these guys have got a house yeast culture, which makes their beers very, very unique. So I think they've got a few house cultures actually. So yeah, the Vault City sours are very, very unique in that sense, I have to say. But it says on the side here, the Tayberry sour, once again we step into the realms of lesser known fruit. A heavy dosing of exceptional local berries stand front and centre as we highlight the unique character of the elusive Tayberry. A Scottish national crossed from a red raspberry and a blackberry named after the River Tay, which flows right past the brewery in Dundee. Sharp, refreshing and jammy, they pair perfectly with our house mixed cultures fruity profile and sherbet zing for a fruit-forward exemplar of a modern sour beer. So yeah, there's a wee typo on the label there. It says Modern. Just so the guys at if the guys at Vault City see that and they redo the label, just there's a wee typo in there. Not going to hold that against them, shit happens. But yeah, 6.6% ABV this one, Tayberry sours. I think this one should be very, very interesting. I've never actually tried Tayberries before, so I have to say I'm just really curious to see how they come out actually. But yeah, 375ml bottle, this one, which is standard for you know, Vault City. Yeah, one thing I will say about this is they sent me a big, like, I want to say there was 18 beers, would it, or was it 12 I think that would have fit in the box, something like that. So they sent these beers in quite a big box. There was only 4 bottles in it, but it was quite big and quite heavy. There's a lot of weight in these Vault City beers actually, but yeah, it's kind of the thing you need to do, selling these beers in the bottles actually. I think that's one thing that Vault City should stick to. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, this one I think should be very, very nice. So as you can see, a nice little bit of smoke on the opening there as we get the beer out, and we'll stick it into the glass. Ooh, colour of this looks very, very nice, I have to say. So they said it was a mix of a raspberry and, was it a blackberry? Let's see. The thing is, when you drive between Perth and you know, when you're going up towards Perth in Scotland, I can't remember if it's between Perth and Dundee, but there's loads of, you know, strawberry farms and things up there. And they do some great fruits up there. Most Scottish desserts and things are centred around berries and stuff like that. But yeah, it says it's a cross between a red raspberry and a blackberry. So yeah, this I think should be quite interesting. But yeah, let's have a little look at this beer and just see how we get on. A 6.6% Tayberry sour. Not often you'll come across these kind of things. But yeah, in terms of its colour, that one, it's actually a really kind of, how do we even describe that? It's actually very purplish. Just look at that. It's got a very deep kind of, it's like a cross between cherry. It's almost like halfway between the colour of a cherry and a blackcurrant. It's almost like somewhere in the middle of that, to be honest with you. The colour of that is absolutely beautiful, I have to say. It looks very, very nice. You can see that when we poured the beer, it poured with about a 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of pinkish tinted head on this one. 1 or 2 bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, and a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head. But I mean, overall, it does look pretty nice actually. I really like how this one goes together in that sense. So yeah, lovely, lovely looking beer, this one. You can see it's got a hell of a haze to it. If I stick my fingers behind the glass there, it's got a lovely kind of, it does have a hell of a haze to it, but when it's got wheat and oats in it, that is to be expected. But yeah, it certainly looks like some of these, you know, Berliner Weisses, Gose, kind of modern fruity Goses that you're going to come across these days, which I do like actually. There's some very good breweries producing these kind of beers over in Sweden actually, and as I say, Vault City are a very, very welcome addition to the Scottish craft beer scene. I know that Fine Ales are doing some sours, you know, Fierce Beer are doing it. You've also got the Brewdog Overworks. There's also a brewery in Glasgow now called the Acid Beer Cartel, who I'm very keen to try something from, so I'll need to see about making that happen quite soon. But yeah, in terms of a sour beer, the appearance of this one is not overly surprising these days when you consider what's out there. So yeah, let's take a look at the aroma then and see how we get on with this one. I think it will be really interesting. I tell you something, it smells lovely. One of the things I've always said about these kind of sour beers, for me, a lot of these sour beers have quite straightforward flavour profiles and aroma profiles, but they just taste great. They really do taste very, very nice. You know, these sour beers are awesome. I really, really like these. It's all about the transition as well for me. You know, they come in a little bit sharp and then they just become really nice and smooth and juicy. That's what I really like about these sour beers. It took sour beer a while to grow on me so that I liked it. But I have to say, you know, Vault City are killing it with these. They're doing brilliantly. And this is another example. It basically smells like a kind of fruity yogurt, to be quite honest with you. That's a kind of basic descriptor of this one. But yeah, this is a lovely, lovely smelling beer. Straight away it reminds me of these little petit filou things. Kind of like a mix between the raspberry and the strawberry one. You know, these little petit filou. Sorry, no, Munch Bunch. Mum used to give me Munch Bunch and Petit Filous in my lunchbox when I was younger, and it really just reminds me of a combination of these. So yeah, we'll come to the fruitiness last in this beer though, but underneath all the fruity juicy things in this beer, which are the first things that jump out at you in this one, you can definitely get some of that nice big thick wheaty quality out of the beer. You can definitely smell that. The oats are giving it a bit of creaminess, and these two things combined are giving you the very kind of base of the beer, which I think is really, really nice. So yeah, I think you know, everything in this beer goes together like really, really well for me. The how would you say, the fruity, yeah, the fruity side of this beer is great. The wheaty and oaty side of things comes across really quite nicely. There's maybe a tiny little bit of a sort of Werther's Original type thing in there underneath too, but mainly it's a big sort of smooth, wheaty and thick yogurty kind of base you're getting out of this one, kind of from the oats. It really does just smell like these kind of Petit Filou, Munch Bunch yogurt kind of things. It really smells like that. But yeah, there's a wee bit of kind of there is a little bit of a hoppy character. This one, one of the things I really like about Vault City is that they use hops in their beer. A lot of these breweries I was talking about in Sweden, you know, Morgendagens and Duck Pond and, you know, things like this, they don't use hops. I think these beers, they need hops. And what they often do with them is that they put like an older hop into them, or one that's very low in alpha acid. But I think having a little bit of that, a tiny little bit of that hoppy bitterness in these beers does really just add a little bit more depth to them, to be honest with you, because otherwise the edge of your palate's just, you know, really smooth and creamy, and I think it's a wee bit, it just lacks a wee bit for me. So yeah, you can definitely smell a little bit of the grassiness out of this one, a little bit of a floral aromaticity, not too much though. The fruitiness does dominate the aroma of this beer, which you would expect, and the wheat and the oats are very prominent as well. But on that fruity side of things, it's a very, very kind of distinctive aroma. It's like a mix, as I say, it's like a mix of almost like strawberries, a little bit of like a blueberry type thing, and then you've also got a bit of a kind of blackcurranty kind of quality in there for me. It's got a mix of everything. It's almost got like the juiciness of strawberry, but the brightness of raspberry, and then the kind of depth, if you like, of like a blackcurrant blackberry sort of thing, or blackcurrant blueberry, I would say. So yeah, I'd say it's more blueberries, maybe no. It's maybe got a little bit of the juiciness of a currant. As I say, there is definitely a bit of the juiciness of the currant in there. There's a little bit of, as I say, a big bit of juicy kind of strawberry in there for me, and then the brightness of raspberry. That's a good way to probably describe the aroma of this one. So I'm wondering if that's going to translate into the flavour of this beer. I've never had Tayberries at all. I'll need to seek these out now and actually try them at some stage. I'm not sure if I would have to go up to Dundee and find them at like a local market or something like that. I've got a couple of good friends from uni who are from Arbroath, so maybe they would have an idea actually where I could get a hold of these. But yeah, we'll see about that at some stage in the future. But in the meantime, I think this one, I think the aroma and flavour that comes out of this beer will be very, very nice. So yeah, take a bit of time to enjoy this. It is quite unique, but we are going to get stuck into this one now. So this one is the Tayberry Sour, 6.6% ABV from Vault City Brewing, originally from Edinburgh but now based in Dundee here in Scotland. This is going to be an awesome, awesome beer. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Ooh, that is nice actually. Oh yeah. Where to start with this one? It's another lovely, lovely beer, this one. Compared to some of the other sour beers that I've had from Vault City before, this one definitely feels a little bit thicker almost. It definitely feels a little bit more kind of thicker and almost creamier than some of the other beers that I've had from them, and the juiciness of this fruit really comes out a little bit more in the aftertaste. This is definitely not one of the sharper ones that I've come across from them actually. But yeah, it is a really very, very nice tasting beer, this one, so it gets a thumbs up from me for sure. But yeah, where to start with this one then? So straight away with this beer you can feel that nice thick oaty coat just in the middle of your palate there, and that suits the beer very, very nicely. But if you go towards the back third of your tongue, you can definitely feel that slightly thick, that very, very kind of thick and almost gloopy kind of wheaty quality there. But they both merge together quite well. There's maybe a wee tiny touch of dryness to it in the there's maybe a teeny tiny little touch of dryness in between that middle third of your palate and your back third of your palate there, which is quite nice. So I like how that goes together in this one, absolutely. So yeah, the flavour profile of this beer is really, really solid. The malty backbone to it works for it, absolutely. There is a wee bit of a tiny little, for me there's a tiny little bit of that Werther's Original type brown sugary kind of quality in this one, to be honest with you. And that comes out a little bit later, the further that you go into the palate with this beer. But as I say, I really like how that malt base complements the beer nicely. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there's definitely a little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit of a herbal kind of quality almost, and then as you reach the kind of front corners of your palate, you do get a little bit of a kind of brighter floral aromaticity. Then round the front curve of the palate, it's got a little bit of a more kind of grassy, it's got a little bit more of a kind of grassy floral sort of thing going on with it there. I would say it's a little bit lighter and grassy. Remember, when it comes to these sour beers though, that they use old hops in them, in low alpha acid ones, so maybe it's an old Hallertau or Tettnanger or something like that that's in this one. But yeah, the kind of green side of this beer goes together very, very nicely. Yeah. But yeah, I really like how it goes together. The fruity side of this beer is the kind of really quirky part of this, and I wanted a little bit of time to reflect on the kind of fruity side of it, because this beer, it does have a little bit of a kind of, the fruity side of this beer does have a little bit of an almost kind of darkness to it, and you can feel it kind of spreading towards the back of your palate there. So as I always say to you, that front third of your palate, that's where you get the juicy fruity esters coming out of the hops in the beer. But then when you add adjuncts into the beer, especially fruits, they'll come out around the very edges of your palate, and that's exactly what's happening in this one. But when it comes to sour beers, for me, the thing that makes a good sour beer is that transition between being sharp and fruity in the beginning to just being like a little bit smoother and a little bit juicy. But this is definitely one of the really kind of juicy leaning beers that I've had from Vault City so far. So it's a really interesting one, this, for me. I really like what they've pulled off with this. So yeah, when you take this beer in, you do get a tiny little bit of sharpness out of it, but then at the front of the palate, it juices out very quickly. You can just feel that juiciness spreading towards the back of the palate. Underneath the kind of front third of your tongue, you've got a little bit of a kind of oaty thing coming out of it, which I think is really very, very nice. That and the oatiness is kind of forming the basis of the fruits. So if you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, there is a wee bit of kind of sharpness in there. There's a little bit of there is a little bit of a kind of how would you say, just it's got a wee bit of a kind of just darker quality to it. This one, it's almost like a little bit of the flavour of kind of brambles or something like that. It really has a little bit of that kind of brambly, woody sort of thing to it just underneath that, which is quite interesting. But I guess if it's a Tayberry like this, it might well be a bramble in the same sense. So yeah, that kind of makes sense, to be quite honest with you. When you take the beer in, it does have a, it's like as the flavour that I was, or the aroma that I was describing to you earlier on, the flavour is very much like that. It's got a wee bit of the darkness you'd expect from, say, a blueberry, but it's got the juiciness of a strawberry, and it's got a kind of brightness on the front part of the palate. It's got a little bit of a kind of raspberry type brightness to it as well, but it's like a mix of blueberry and blackberry, the depth to the fruit in this one. And as I say, juicy strawberry. The blueberry blackberry sort of flavour in this one kind of sits towards the front of that front third of your tongue. The juicy kind of strawberry type flavour kind of sits a little bit further back. Then you've got the brambly kind of thing going on there as well. Then on the very front tip of your tongue, you've got that little bit more of a kind of raspberry brightness, slightly more tart quality coming off the beer. So yeah, I really like how that goes together in this one. So yeah, the fruitiness to this beer is very, very unique, and I don't think you're going to find another beer that that highlights this. But yeah, it's lovely, and you know, they've pulled it off very, very well. So massive thumbs up to massive thumbs up to Vault City Brewing for this one. It's a great beer, this, and something very, very unique. So if you come across this one, the Tayberry Sour, this one is very unique. This one probably is up there with the Iron Brew Sour, to be honest with you. Those two are kind of quintessentially Scottish in my mind. So I think that's maybe something that Vault City should look at. They should maybe look at doing like a a Pride of Scotland series, or something like that. And have the the Scottish ingredient series or something like that, and have the Tayberry Sour, the Iron Brew, and I'm sure there's various other things that they can do, like a Cranachan Sour or something like this. They'll no doubt come up with loads of crazy ideas over the next little while, but this one is just another beautiful beer from these guys, and that's what we've come to expect, to be honest with you. Lovely stuff. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I think we've covered the flavour profile as much as we can with this one. But yeah, mouthfeel. This beer, it's pretty, I would say that this beer is pretty kind of full-bodied. It's one of the thicker sours that I've come across. The carbonation is very, very smooth. It really leans, as I say, towards that big, thick, oaty, kind of creamy kind of thing. You've got a little bit of hoppy bitterness to this beer, but I would say it's maybe about 10 IBUs or something. But I think, as I've said earlier, having a bit of hops in these beers just adds a little bit more depth to them. So there is a wee bit of hoppy bitterness on the edge of the palate there, not a lot. Lovely big kind of juicy fruity characters there. This is not one of the more tart beers, I think, that you're going to come across from Vault City, but I would say that overall Vault City are not one of the most tart sour breweries, if that makes sense. Their beers tend to be more kind of along the juicy side of things. Scottish sweet tooth coming out once again. I think that's maybe why a lot of people really enjoy these beers in Scotland. So these beers, I think, in a sense, for Scottish people who are not, generally speaking, who are generally not widely versed in sour beers, Vault City offer many kind of nice entry beers into this style, and then you can go and try these really kind of big tart lambics and the Flanders Reds and things like that. This would be a nice beer to try as your first sour beer, absolutely. So yeah, I really like how this goes together for sure. But yeah, massive thumbs up to Vault City Brewing for this one. Like I say, lovely big fruity juiciness, and it's just got a wee bit of a kind of creamy fruity character to it as well. If you like Petit Filou or Munch Bunch yogurts, I think you will pretty much like this beer as well. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. A really interesting beer to review, and always nice to have something new from Vault City on the channel. So yeah, this one was the Tayberry Sour. Coming in at 6.6% ABV, a really uniquely Scottish sour beer, this one. So if you get the chance to try this or anything else from Vault City, make sure you do it. These guys are one of the very hyped Scottish breweries at the moment, and in my opinion, they really deserve that hype, to be quite frank. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers so far have been from Vault City Brewing, and you will see another couple of beers from these guys reviewed very, very soon. The Tayberry Sour, 6.6% ABV from Vault City Brewing in Edinburgh, now brewing their beers at 71 Brewing in Dundee. Slàinte, Skål, cheers, and catch you guys on the next review.